Welcome to Autism Approved, brought to you by Enzymedica. Now here's your host, Kristin Selby Gonzalez.
Hi, I am Kristin Selby Gonzalez, and you are watching Autism Approved. 1 out of 91 children between the ages of 3 and 17 are being diagnosed with autism. That's 1 out of 58 boys. We knew it was more important than ever to bring you a show that offered hope, resources, and tools. Well, today I have a very special guest. His name is Dr. Lonsdale, and he will be talking to us about different biomedical issues and what that actually means. So thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
Well, you know, a lot of people out there, when they've talked about you, I've heard them say you were one of the very first biomedical doctors.
Right.
How many years have you been practicing?
I graduated in 1948.
Wow. And what did you see in autism back in 1948?
I didn't see autism at all in 1948. I didn't see autism until the 60s.
Really?
And I was a pediatrician at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation. And autism was such a rare condition then that we would put it into a conference in the pediatric department to discuss the whole situation. And so we treated it as a rare bird. And it was at that time that I became acquainted with Bernie Rimland. And he wrote a manuscript to the U.S. Navy telling them that they were malnourishing their personnel.
Really?
Yes.
How did the Navy respond to that?
I don't know. But he asked me to look at the manuscript and I edited it before he sent it in. I don't know what happened to it after that. But that's how I got to know Bernie.
Okay.
And then I was asked to join when he and Sid Baker put together the idea of Defeat Autism Now, which was an offshoot of Bernie Rimland's Autism Research Institute in San Diego. And so I was asked to go to the very first meeting of Dan. I couldn't make it because it clashed with another conference, but I went to lots of conferences after that.
Wow. So what have you seen since all those years ago? Have you seen the transformation?
Well, when I was at the Cleveland Clinic, it was my young child patients that taught me that medicine was on the wrong track. That you don't treat a disease with a poisonous substance. How can you expect a poisonous substance to do anything towards a disease? First thing that the body tries to do with a drug is to break it down and excrete it. So that's why you have to keep dosing it. And I published the first case of thiamine dependency in a child. Thiamine dependency is different from deficiency.
Okay.
Thiamine is the fancy name for vitamin B1.
Oh, okay.
And dependency means that the child needs hundreds of times more of the vitamin in order to run the machinery of his body than ordinarily in a healthy person. And so I started then on a long library research program and clinical research on vitamin B1, and I'm still working at it.
Now, how many children have you seen go through your practice?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yes, I haven't counted. But what we did find was that 21% of the children that we saw in our practice in Westlake had a defective vitamin B1 metabolism.
And so by increasing that, you saw advantage.
By using vitamin B1 in a special form known as fat-soluble vitamin B1. It's really not fat-soluble, but that doesn't matter. That's a technical issue. It's a fancy way of getting vitamin B1 into the cells where they're required.
And where it actually would be absorbed.
Yes. And we found that we did a pilot study in which we took 10 patients, and whatever treatment they were getting at that time, we added this vitamin, and 8 of them improved over the baseline. And so we published that as a pilot study. And then what we wanted to do was to do a big study, an institutional study and do it properly with control groups and all. The FDA wouldn't let us do it.
I wonder if they knew something.
No, they didn't know. And the FDA, I have to say, even though it's probably being said in public, that they're not interested in our well-being. They're interested in protecting the drug industry.
Now, what did you do prior to Biomedical?
Well,
what was your specialty?
I was an orthodox pediatrician when I started at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation. I was as orthodox as anybody else, but it was my patients that led me to believe that we were on the wrong track. And it was this particular patient that was dependent on this particular vitamin for his well-being.
Wow. Now, what was your first patient of autism? Do you remember the year? Do you remember that patient?
Sorry?
Do you remember your very first patient that had autism?
Oh, no, he didn't have autism, but it taught me that some of the diseases that, I mean, you know, there were diseases being admitted to the hospital without any, we'd given a name, a diagnostic name, but nobody had the faintest idea what was wrong with them or where the cause was. And I started using vitamin B1 on some of these kids just to see what happened, and I found that some of them would improve.
Wow.
So what it taught me was that really, in the essence, as the years have gone on, it's taught me that really energy is the defining issue in disease. And I'm not talking about your ability to jump up and down on a trampoline. That's what people think of. When you talk about energy, I've got lots of energy, meaning that they can do a lot of physical things. I'm talking about the cell, the energy required by the cell for it to function.
And you're able to now see, by helping those cells regenerate,
yes,
the people start getting
yes,
better.
Because the cell depends on the fundamental basis called oxidation, which means that oxygen has to be consumed in order to create energy.
Which seems simple. Yeah, it seems simple. But
it is simple.
But yet we're having issues trying to figure out why it's doing that in the body, right?
Well, we know why. I mean, we can take the complexity of biochemistry and we can distill it down to basically simplicity. And any you look through all scientific history, and complexity has always been distilled down to simplicity. Till now, all we have to do is to flick a light switch and a light comes on. But the complexity of that issue, going back to the history of electricity, is tremendous.
Absolutely.
Well, it's the same with biochemistry. Biochemistry is complex as complex as anything you can imagine, but out of that you can discern that there's really an engine in the cell which creates the energy, and then there is a transmission which uses the energy.
That's a great way to think of it.
Yeah, because it's all in biochemical terms. So the engine creates the energy, and then the transmission uses the energy, just like a car. Only the details are widely different, that's all. But the principle is the same.
So what we need to do is just figure out how to make all the components work way they're supposed to.
That's what we have to do.
And it seems like some people are able to figure out the different parts that are needed faster than others.
Well, it's still largely educated guesswork.
Well, it seems like everything is like that, right? I mean, that's even how when you talked about flicking the switch on. How many times did he try before that it didn't work, right?
Yes.
So now, I heard you before in some of your lectures talk about oxidative stress. I would love to talk more about that.
Well, oxidative stress is very simple if you think of it as too little versus too much. That's all. You want oxidation, you want the use of oxygen to be in the middle between none and too much. That's all.
You just need to have that perfect balance.
Yes.
So why are some of our kids, is it going back to then transmission in the car, why are some of our kids having so much what we call oxidative stress? Like why are they too much or too little?
Well, basically you can be in the too little group, or you can be in the too much group, or you can be in both groups at the same time because of the